Welcome to But What About Me, a career success podcast dedicated to giving a voice to underrepresented populations, or UPs, and helping each navigate their career to reach their highest potential. This podcast is brought to you by JenniferTardy.com. Hey, we're back with another episode of But What About Me? I'm your host, Jennifer Tardy. You might already be familiar with this week's guest, Linda Raynier. Now, if you aren't familiar with Linda, oh boy, do I have a treat for you today. Now, Linda is a career strategist, speaker, and coach for corporate professionals looking to enhance their personal brand to pursue careers they will truly enjoy. After receiving her CPA designation and working at a Big Four accounting firm, Linda became a top-performing recruiter in Toronto, where she placed over 200 individuals across the GTA, from financial analysts up to CFOs, directors at financial levels. She has also acted as a consultant and career coach for members of CPA Ontario. Now, she gets to work with international clients in Asia, Europe, Africa, the U.S., and Canada through her website, lindaraynier.com. She's coached thousands of candidates with a variety of designations. She is establishing herself as a thought leader in the career and professional development space. She has a rapidly, and I mean rapidly, growing YouTube channel, which reaches millions of viewers and shares her insights on anything career related, from interview and resume tips to personal branding and confidence building strategies. Her clients have successfully landed exciting career opportunities within a short time after working with Linda by executing her unique strategies. In this episode, I speak with Linda about how growing up in a traditional Asian culture can shape your career decisions. We talk about the myth of if you work hard, you will be promoted. We talk about building professional confidence and ways to effectively communicate your value during an interview or on the job. And we also talk about how to avoid getting into careers for the wrong reasons, among many other topics. So my conversation with Linda is loaded with goodies, but don't take my word for it. How are you today?
I'm good, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. And, let me tell you, I'm really excited about this topic. I remember when we first started talking about it. I'm standing at the airport and about to go and catch my flight. And I'm inviting you to the podcast, But What About Me? I'm explaining to you what this topic is all about. And I'm like, Linda, what do you think you'd want to talk about? What do you think your theme is going to be? And you mentioned how growing up in a traditional Asian culture can affect one's ability to be promotable. What made you come up with such a great topic on the spot?
Well, you know what? First of all, I think it's great what you do in terms of the work that you do, helping people in their careers, but helping those who realize that there are certain aspects to themselves that they can control, but they don't realize are potentially hindering them from getting ahead in their careers. And I can tell you that as someone who is of Asian descent and who's grown up in an Asian family, a traditional Asian household, and then also with a lot of my clients being from Asian countries, actually. I get a lot of people from China and Korea who are, professionals, really well educated, and who want to continue to grow in their careers in the States or in Canada. What I find, or in Australia, any Western countries, what I find the biggest pattern has been that there's a bit of a discrepancy between their pattern of thinking in terms of going to school, growing up, thinking that all you have to do is work hard, get good grades, and eventually you'll get that career that you deserve. And they kind of take that mindset and they apply it in the work world. So they think that they just have to put their head down, work really hard every day. Sometimes, a lot of times work overtime, work harder than their peers, thinking that that's what's going to get them ahead. But that's only a little part of the equation. There's a whole other aspect that they're completely missing out on. And it has a lot to do with their communication, their social skills, their ability to really develop strong relationships with others, that I find. And, I'll tell you this, like if you were an American born, like an American, Asian American is what I'm trying to say, like someone who's born in the States or born in Canada, born in a westernized country, I don't think you necessarily have this issue. It's more so when you're coming from a different country, and let's say you're coming from China and you came to the States and you started school later on. Maybe you already completed your bachelor's in China, but now you took on a master's degree and now you're ready to take on a career, something along those lines. It's where you grew up and were raised in another country. I find that's where the miscommunication comes in when it comes to understanding how it is that you're able to get ahead. So that's why that's a long roundabout way to saying that's how I came up with the idea to talk about this, because it is something that I do notice and that people struggle with when it comes to finding a job, really overcoming their lack of confidence in developing strong relationships and strong communication skills.
So, and when you said that to me, I was like, okay, this is a phenomenal topic to talk about, because one of the things so you and I are both career coaches, and one of the things that we agreed on was that before you can say to a person, go out and get a great resume, apply to the right jobs, oftentimes you have to address emotional and cultural needs first. So it sounds like in these scenarios, you often have to address the cultural aspect before you can get to the tactical, now go and apply to this job. How do you address what you just mentioned to your clients of Asian culture?
Well, see, the interesting thing is, for me, even though I say that I notice that this is a pattern, once I get in touch with someone who is going to potentially be a client of mine, it no longer becomes an issue where we only focus and highlight the fact that they're coming from a different country, or that English is their second language. We don't even really talk about that. We realize that is something that there is a bit of a hindrance for them, but instead, what we just focus on right away is, okay, let's move forward with the strategy and the tactics and the method of how to really overcome this, what you need to know. So there isn't much for me to have to discuss with them. I think the big thing is that as long as we're both aware and they understand that I understand where they're coming from, and they feel acknowledged from that perspective, that that's the issue that they're dealing with, that's really all we have to do. Because as soon as that happens, that trust is built a little bit, and the understanding between both sides is there, and then we're able to sort of get right into it and get into, okay, let's move forward and figure out how to resolve this, or how to improve you so that you can increase your chances of getting a job offer.
Okay. And in these scenarios, do you find yourself as a part of the strategy saying that if you want a promotion, you actually need to go and talk to somebody about it? Or do you kind of just leave that out?
If you want a promotion, so you're saying, like, what's the tactic or strategy on how they can get promoted?
Yeah. So in the scenario that we were talking about, if we're believing, so this whole, but what about me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm from China and I believe that if I work hard, someone's going to recognize me and they're going to promote me. But I find that that's not happening to me. Now, you as the coach, you're already noticing, you already know that there's a specific tactic to make sure that you get a promotion. Is that the moment where you come in and you say, hey, well, here's what you need to do. You're going to actually have to go and do X1, X2, X3, or do you do it differently?
So there's a whole series of steps before they can actually go out there and talk to their boss and say that I want to get promoted, or I want a new position. It really is, I would say, so I think I get your question. Like, it really is more about understanding themselves and understanding what strengths they actually carry, what their brand is. And the thing about, the word brand is thrown around a lot these days, personal brand. And a lot of people I mean, I've come up with my own definition. So, some people may agree, some people may see it differently, but my definition of personal brand is really knowing your value, knowing what it is that you have to offer another individual, employer, organization, knowing what your true strengths are, and then being able to encapsulate that in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, in the way that you communicate in interviews. So the first thing that we need to get clear on is their own brand, who it is they are from a professional perspective, what are the strengths that they're able to bring across, what are their key talents, what is their value, and that is a combination of things, meaning their experience level, the education that they have, the knowledge that they have, the things that they're able to do, their accomplishments from previous roles. So there's a whole process where we have to get clear on that. Once they can get clear on that, then that's when the confidence starts to build. So it's a bit of definitely it is baby steps, because the confidence needs to build slowly. You can't really just, here's 5 steps. This is what you got to do. Tomorrow you're going to go in there, you're going to ask for a raise, or you're going to ask for a promotion. That's really tough to ask of somebody who is still having confidence issues about who they are and what they can do. Yeah, they have to start getting clear about that. So that's what we would address first.
That makes a lot of sense. And so you mentioned confidence, and that's a huge thing. Are there any other emotional needs that you also have to address, or that you have to help people to navigate or to build up before you can start going into tactics?
Yeah, confidence actually is something that comes a bit naturally because of the process that we go through in terms of discovering who they are from a professional perspective. But I would say there's also clarity. I don't know if you'd call that an emotion, but clarity in the sense that I can't really work with somebody if they don't know what it is that they want. If they're not clear on the type of job that they want to go after, or they're not clear on where they want to take their careers, but they know they need help, it's still going to be very difficult for me as a professional career coach to really take them through the process if they don't even know where they're going. So the biggest thing that I would say that helps my clients to be really successful in their job search and land a job offer by the time that we're done is that they have to first come to me knowing exactly sort of what kind of role they want to get into, what kind of position, what kind of company, what kind of industry. And also they have to already have a sense that they can do that job, that the current skills and experience they have already is a match to what it is that they want. So they have to have it's not like they can come in with zero confidence. They do have to have a little bit of self-belief that, I think it's possible for me to get another job. I think it's possible for me to get a different position. I know I deserve it, but I just don't know how. That's the perfect sort of mindset I find for a client who's going to have a lot of success.
Okay. Got it. So as we start talking about, but what about me? I'm really interested in your perspective on what do you find to be a unique struggle of job seekers who are Asian? And maybe it's even in addition to what we were talking about before in, head down, working hard, and being recognized.
Yeah, I think, the head down, working hard, being recognized, there's spin-offs to that. There's different consequences to that. The one being that, you put your head down, you work hard every day. And so what happens is the perception that you're giving off to others in the work environment is that you're the doer. You're given a task, you're being asked to work on something, and you tend to just say yes because you want to show that you can do the work, and you don't want to refuse, and you don't want to look as though you don't want to offend them. So that, I think, plays into that mindset as well, where you say yes a lot, and sometimes you say yes to things that don't belong to you, like they shouldn't be your tasks. So not speaking up for yourself plays into that as well. And I find that Asian, so this is the thing, growing up in an Asian household, I was always taught that, if there are people who are of higher rank than you, whether it means that they're older than you, or they are an uncle or an aunt, or just someone who's just at a higher rank, a boss, a teacher, you always have to pay them respect, and you have to do as they say. I mean, I don't want to overgeneralize and say that
Right.
that's how it is with everybody, but that is something that I do find a lot of Asian people, that's just how society, especially if you grow up in a country where that's really ingrained, that's how people think. And so they, these professionals, they tend to have that same perspective in the workplace, where somebody in another department, maybe like maybe not even their direct boss at all, but just it could even be a colleague or just someone's of slightly higher rank, maybe a supervisor, ask them to work on something and they say yes right away. And I'm not saying that they should start refusing all work that's being handed to them, but what I am saying is that they need to understand how to prioritize, and how to be able to communicate what's most important and why they're doing what they're doing, rather than just saying, yes, 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 I'll do it. And they just overwork themselves, pile things onto themselves. They feel overwhelmed and stressed out, and they feel as though no one's recognizing them for the hard work that they're doing, because they're known as someone who's just always going to say yes. I find actually that, and I don't know if you've noticed this too, Jennifer, people who, it's not the ones that speak up and are fussy that, are able to get what they want, but at times that does work. If
Oh yeah, the squeaky wheel. Absolutely.
Right. Yes. If it's really about you understanding your value and understanding what you're there for and what you can do and you can contribute. If you're just being thrown really, back end tasks, things that are not important, and you just keep doing that, you're not contributing in the way that you could be contributing if you're working on more complex projects, things that would actually move things along for the company, result in bigger impact for the company. If you're only accepting those low end tasks, that holds you back as well in your career. And I find that people who say yes, this could be Asian people, this could be anybody really who just has an issue with saying no, that that can lead you down that path where you work, and then 2 3 years 4 years goes by and you realize, I've been in the same position longer than I needed to be. I could have been promoted at this point had I worked on more high priority items or important projects.
So this whole topic, what you were just talking about, just gave me goosebumps, because I know that there's somebody that's going to listen to this that says, that is me, like that is me right there, that I do work so well and people trust that it's going to get done the first time, that they just keep coming to me. And because I've been raised to believe in respecting authority figures, especially if it's a leader bringing something to me and I already have 15 things to do over here, now I'm working too many hours of the day to get this stuff done. They know me as the worker. Can we talk more about some solutions if there's that person that's listening saying, this is me, I'm stuck in this right now. How do they get out of that?
The biggest thing, like I said before, I would say the number one advice is to get clarity for yourself. Like you need to start doing something, journaling even, just really take the time for yourself to ask yourself, what do I want in my career? What kind of career do I actually want? Do I want a career where I'm the worker bee and I'm being piled on tasks every day and I'm not being recognized? Or do I want a career where it's the opposite, where I get to work on high profile things, where I can contribute and add value? Now, the thing is though, just because you want it doesn't mean that you can get it tomorrow. You have to also recognize, well, what do I need to work on within myself that's going to allow me to get those types of positions, first of all, and then allow me to sustain those positions? Because I've seen people land job offers, and because they went back to their old patterns, they weren't able to continue in that role the way that they could have had they approached it differently, had they been a little bit more strategic and things like that. So the question here is, what am I missing? And I know it's a little bit hard for people, because I think sometimes people think, I work hard. I've done everything that I could. My background is good. Why are employers not picking me? Why, when I'm going into interviews, what are they seeing about me that, that they're not liking? And the truth is, you really have to look at yourself objectively. You have to look at yourself from an employer standpoint. You have to ask yourself, what could it potentially be? It could be maybe in the interview, I'm not communicating my value. I am not articulating my worth to them in a way that's compelling, that's engaging. Perhaps I'm not connecting to them. It's an interview where it's really just a question and answer period. And so they ask me a question, I give them an answer. They ask me a question, I give them an answer. And there's no real conversation happening. There's all these little nuances that I think people don't realize they're doing, not only in the interview stage, but then once they get into the new job, or even at their current job, they're already not doing it. They're not making that effort to make connections to those people on their team, to really be able to also delegate some of the tasks, to know that they don't have to do everything, because that's not their entire job, to do everything everybody else is asking them to. It's really knowing how to stand your ground. So first, clarity, and then from there, understand the gaps, and then slowly figure out a way to address those gaps to get to where it is that you do want to go.
Okay, got it. And this is a good transition into the next question that I have as well, because I know we've all heard that book, "What Got You Here Won't Get You There," and so yes, there's some truth to working hard can get you to a next place. But now when we start talking about management, leadership, and getting into even the C-suite, or becoming a chief one day,
right?
What are some factors that are still missing, even to go that step further?
Yeah. And I find this a lot with my clients too, because they're mid to senior level professionals, but have been stuck in that sort of space of being a manager or senior manager, even director for years, and not being able to make it to that C-suite level. And I find the difference is truly in there is this sense of, first, you have to have that belief and that vision that you actually do want that. I think people say they want to move up in their careers, but if they really were honest with themselves, they're happy with where they're at. So one thing I would say is being completely honest with yourself. Do you actually want to be a C-suite? When you look at a C-suite level executive, do you actually want to do what they're doing? They seem to be traveling a lot, which seems glamorous, but then they're not spending time with their family. They're working a lot too. They have a lot on their shoulders. There's a lot of people under them that they have to oversee. And so do you actually want that for yourself is the first thing. Because if you don't actually want it, subconsciously you're going to do things to not get yourself there. And you have to recognize that. So now if it is something that you do really want, then you have to start asking yourself, what are the qualities that these C-suite level executives exhibit that I feel that I could continue to work on within myself? So it's not that you don't necessarily, I don't have that quality at all. If you really see yourself in an executive, for example, at your company, or just even looking at other companies and looking at those high profile CEOs that are out there, when you're looking at them and you compare them to yourself, do you feel that there's some resemblance? Because I think at the end of the day, you know yourself best. The best person that we know is usually ourselves. And if we are completely honest with ourselves, we can get a lot of information about who we are and what we're capable of. And if we really are honest with ourselves and we ask, do I see a resemblance between me and that CEO? Do I see that I have those similar qualities? I just need to maybe exhibit them a little bit more, excuse me, then that's a good thing. And so you start to recognize, okay, what are the individual qualities that they have? They have the ability to influence. They have the ability to make others feel respected, but also acknowledged. They have the ability to, not necessarily, I wouldn't say the word convince, but I use the word influence, which I think is really one of the key things, is your ability to influence others, your ability to be seen as a true advisor, as a guide, as a helpful resource, not as just someone who has the answers to everything necessarily, but as someone who can guide people in a certain direction. They don't understand something. It's not just about giving them an answer. It's about showing them how they can figure out that answer for themselves. And so those are things that even no matter what level you're at in your career, you can start to exhibit them right away. You can start to work on them, because that essentially is, those are the soft, invisible things that are going to actually enable you those opportunities to move ahead. Because if you compare two people, one person who just puts their head down, doesn't really talk, just does their work to get things done, which is fine. Every company needs those people. But then there's the other person who learns all about their role. They do what they need to do, but also they're also becoming somebody who's seen as a resource, as an advisor, someone who people have issues, they go to that person because they know that they'll be able to get guidance on what they need to do in order to find the answers. You know, you can start to become, you start to develop that that sort of reputation for yourself. That is in a way creating a leader reputation for yourself, no matter what role you're in, whether it's at the lowest ranks. That is going to allow you that ability to influence others, to hopefully get you to that next level and the next level and so forth. And hopefully that will eventually get you to the C-suite level.
Okay. No, so that's great. And even in your responses, even in your answers, um, I am hearing something that connects to what I thought I read in your on your website, lindaraynier.com, by the way. And I thought that I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a holistic coach, right? Is
Uh,
that related to that? Or what's the word you use?
Well, I don't know. I honestly, I call myself all kinds of things. I think the easiest for people to understand is I actually call myself a career strategist. I help people navigate their careers. But in the past, I've also referred to myself as an intuitive purpose coach.
What it was, intuitive. Yes.
Yes.
Because I hear you use words like it's the mindset, it's you knowing your worth, it's you having clarity in what you want. And I can tell that it's truly embedded in all that you do, because even in your answers, you're mentioning it a lot too. So for those who don't know what the approach of an intuitive career coach would be, would you care to explain that in your own words?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, okay, so this is the thing where I don't try to promote it too much, because I think a lot of people, like, I think a lot of people aren't ready for it, in the sense that, you know, they can get scared off with the idea of, what do you mean intuition? I don't really understand. But honestly, intuition, we all have it, first of all. And I know a lot of people have heard that as well. But intuition, actually, if you really break it down, it is that inner sense within you of, like, these little callings, these little whispers, these little desires that you have. That is intuition. That is your self, your inner self, talking to you and letting you know that there's a certain direction that you need to be going on, because that's going to allow you to go on a path where you're going to be the most fulfilled, living the most purposeful life. I see that, honestly, people who don't listen to their intuition, who basically don't listen to themselves, and who are very logical minded, and who actually end up listening a lot to other people's opinions
Yeah.
rather than their own, those are the people that end up 10-20 years down their careers realizing, oh my gosh, I've been in, I mean, not, this is not all the time, but there have been cases where people, they say, I realize I've been going down the wrong path for the wrong reasons. It might not even be about the job itself. It might be that they're in the right career, but they went for it for the wrong reasons in the first place. And they realize that after, and then they realize, yeah, I really needed to be listening to myself for why I wanted to go down this path. And so for me as an intuitive purpose coach, how I do it is, you know, it really is about aligning the work that you want to get into to who you are, what you're capable of, your worth, and for whatever feels good for you. It has to be that you really want this, because inside of you, it's not just, I want this to prove myself to others. It's, I want this because something inside of me is telling me that I want to move in this direction with my career. And if that passion is there, that desire is there, then I find that it's so much easier to work with that individual, because we know that we're both on the same page and the end goal is the same, where it doesn't matter what the end job looks like. It's more about the direction that they're heading in. It's heading them in the direction of where they want to go with their career. So intuition, I mean, if I had to really break it down, it's really listening to that inner voice and tapping into yourself and being quiet from time to time, not consuming yourself with other people's opinions, other people's thoughts. The internet is a great source of doing that, where you can fill yourself up with information and thoughts and opinions of others, and then be completely lost to knowing who you are and what you want in your life. So intuition I find is the number one tool that's helped me with my career, and is helping me now with helping others in their careers.
I absolutely love it. And I'm glad that you cleared that up. So it's the intuitive part of it. Now, I know that I'm going down a different path, but I have to go down this path because I think it's important.
No worries.
So, so I have several friends who happen to be Asian, who have mentioned to me that growing up, their parents have told them, this is what you're going to do when you go to college. You're going to study this, and you're going to get this job. Connecting that back to what your message was just now, what would you say to that person who's listening right now, whose intuition is telling them to go in a different route, but their environment growing up and their parents are telling them to go down this other path?
Oh, I love that question, because that is something that is so common, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I don't even know why I forgot that is like a common situation. And yeah, it's not just, I find Asian, but also like South Asian, like I find, and even other cultures, there's that case where parents just tell them, because maybe they're in those careers themselves. They say, oh, I'm a doctor. Well, you're going to be the next doctor in the family, so definitely. Growing up for me, actually, this is very relevant. When I was growing up, I was told by my dad that, when you grow up, you'll be a lawyer. You have those abilities. You can speak, you can write, you can definitely, you'll make it as a lawyer. So you should try to go and be a lawyer when you grow up. And so I actually had that thought. It was planted in me from who knows how old, definitely under the age of 10. And that idea was planted in me. And so I nurtured that idea until I realized that I didn't think it was the right path for me. And that was well into my university years that I was realizing, okay, actually, you know what? There's another path that I could go on. And even that I realized wasn't the right path for me at the time, but ended up now I realized it was the right path for what I needed. But I would say that it is really tough, because I find people who are told that they need to go through certain careers, that they hold on to that because they trust their parents. They trust that their parents know what they should be doing with their lives. And I actually saw it in school, in high school, seeing other students, also Asian, just so happens, who were pursuing careers or about to pursue careers, going and taking courses because they knew that they wanted to go down a certain path. And I always questioned and asked myself, is it something that they really wanted? Or I'm wondering if it was something that their parents told them, kind of like how my dad told me. And it's interesting because they took it really seriously. Right. And it was only until they were actually in the job, or they were studying for those exams, and they weren't making it past and getting into the med school or into law school or into those professional higher level education institutions, that they were realizing, oh no, maybe I should have taken a different path. So what I would encourage for people who are at that point where they're realizing, oh, I've been trying to go on this path all because I'm trying to make my parents happy, but now I'm realizing it's actually not what I want, is that is an amazing opportunity that you have now that you've made that realization, to completely start fresh, from the perspective of asking yourself, well, what do I want? What's going to allow me to make use of what I know I'm naturally good at? What is the direction of my life that I want to head into? Where do I see myself in the next few years? What does my life look like in the next few years for me? Am I working for myself? Am I working my own hours? Or am I working with a big organization? And am I helping to support a certain cause? What are the things that light you up? You really have to start asking yourself. If you haven't done that already, you need to start. I feel like So many people I find go into careers for the wrong reasons, and they end up unhappy on a day-to-day basis. Your career, your job is something that you do every day of your life,
Yes.
until you have the funds to be able to retire.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you're going to spend 5 days of the week minimum, sometimes you're working weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, if you're going to spend that much time at a position, you really want to make sure that it's within the realm of what it is that you want. It's so important. And I think, to be honest, it is hard as a child growing up, not, to know what that would be. But I think if parents loosened up a little bit and gave their child the opportunity to explore what different career paths could look like, just giving them the understanding of what things could look like and allowing them to have their own creativity, their own intuition flow through, they're going to be naturally guided towards one certain direction or others. And it'll eventually lead them down the right path.
What would you say to the parents? So, because you just made me think about that. So,
Yeah.
what would you say to the parents that have already started saying, "Hey, when you grow up, you need to be a lawyer"? What would you say to them?
I definitely would say, I would ask the parent, are you saying that to your child because of something that is lacking within you?
Oh, wow, that's deep. I love it, love it.
I honestly feel that. I mean, that parents feel as though their children are at times are extensions of their own ego.
Yeah.
And you see, I'm at an age now where I see friends have children, and even the way that they approach, oh, my child can stand, my child can walk, my child can do this and that, it's almost as though it's a boost for their own ego because they're able to get their children to do that, or maybe just their child was able to do that on their own naturally, but they take the credit for it. And it continues as the child gets older, and I feel that that is a really unhealthy habit. I've experienced it in my life where I was an extension, or I was the representation of my parents' success. And I still feel that I am in their minds, and it's not something that I can knock out of them, them having raised me over these years. But for people who do realize that they potentially might be causing harm, I think it is really wise for you to ask yourself, why am I encouraging them in this direction? What is it saying about me? I think parents are easy to just deflect and say it's the child's fault, or it's the child's, it's what they want. It's what they want. I'm telling them that, I'm encouraging them, but at the end of the day, it's what they want. But really, is it also about what you want too? Is there a part to why they're wanting that? Because maybe of influence that you've given them, and is it positive? Does it seem as though that's something that they actually genuinely want, or do you feel as though you're forcing it onto them as well? So really, it all goes down to ask yourself, why am I doing this? If I've already told my child that they need to go down a certain path, why am I doing this? And how is this potentially a reflection of me and
Mm.
what's going on within me?
OMG, I could keep just even that one part of the conversation going on and on and on. However, we can't. So let's bring this back to what our original topic was, and I'll close it out with this one question about the topic, but then I have a couple of other things for you. When we think about the whole notion of you work hard, you'll be recognized, or if you're a great worker, I'm going to keep piling more work onto you. Question, whose responsibility is it to evolve? Is it truly the job seeker? I'm not even a job seeker. Is it truly the employee or the employer? Whose responsibility is it?
I would say it's, definitely for sure, both sides. There's, you can't really pinpoint one person over the other as to who's supposed to evolve necessarily. I think from the employer's perspective, they definitely, there's just been such a traditional, very logical minded way of looking at an individual and saying, okay, they deserve the next step. I find that some people are too focused on, well, they've done these things, and so it's ready for that, they're ready for this next thing. It's all based on what they've done. But I think people also don't, there's And in some cases they include this, in some cases they don't, but it's also about the person's potential. A lot of the time they're always saying, you need to have proven to me that you've done this before you can do this next job. That does make sense. Absolutely. I agree with that. But also, you have to look at that person's potential. They've potentially reached the max in their role, and they weren't given an opportunity to prove themselves any further to the next level. A lot of the time they say, you know how they say, in order to be a manager, you need to be already managing.
Right.
Well, if the person was never given that opportunity to manage, how can you expect them to say, right, that they can manage? You have to also look at it from a holistic view, and you have to also trust your intuition from that perspective as well, and be able to say, you know what, given what I've seen they've been able to prove to me in their job from a technical perspective, they're really good. But at the same time, I actually also feel that they have the skills, that if I was to give them this challenge with staff under them, they'll actually be able to take it on. They'll be able to do it. They'll handle it. They might have a few rough, bumps at the beginning, but they'll be able to smooth them out. So on the employer side, you have to evolve in terms of not just look at things black and white, and be able to look at things from a holistic perspective, look at the individual themselves, and understand and acknowledge whether you feel truly that they have that potential to do well in that next position. Because just giving the person the chance can actually change the course of how your department is run, if you just gave them that chance. So that's one aspect to it with employers. And then from the employee's perspective, it's always about evolving and changing yourself, in the sense that you always want to improve yourself from a personal development standpoint. But it's really also knowing that it's not just about you. A lot of the time people get upset, I didn't get promoted. I've done all this stuff and I didn't get promoted. And this is me. And, they focus entirely on themselves rather than focusing on, well, what value did they give or bring to someone else, to their boss, the person who actually has to make that decision. What value have they demonstrated to their boss? How have they helped their boss over the last year? You have to really be honest with yourself and understand, like, are you offering value? Or are you just demanding that you should be doing more because because all your friends are, all your peers are already at that stage and you're not? Well, there is that aspect where you do have to prove yourself, but prove yourself in a way where the mindset is not just, I just need to do this for a promotion. It's the mindset where I need to do this so that I can help those around me. I want to be able to support those around me in a way where it makes them, their lives easier, and that they can trust me to do things, to take on more complicated tasks, take on more projects, and they can trust me with it because they know that I offer value. It's not that I just get the work done. It's that I'm able to do things above and beyond what they expect. So both sides. I hope
I like that. And so our listeners will hear that both parties absolutely must evolve to get to a good place. So I know that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to want to know more about you and to find you. Tell us, where can they find you, and what do you have going on over there? Any upcoming events?
Yeah, no, for sure. So most people find me through YouTube, actually through my YouTube channel. It's called Linda Raynier, Raynier, and that's Linda spelled with an I. Otherwise, they can also visit my website, lindaraynier.com, to find out about the work that I do and sign up for my email newsletter. In terms of events, I don't actually have anything going on in the next little while. More videos will be coming out. I've actually taken a break this month for the summer just because of family stuff, and it's I just wanted to take a bit of a break. So yeah, in the fall things will ramp up again, and with my channel already, I have a lot of people who follow and listen to my advice when it comes to their careers, and I've had a lot of people just from watching my YouTube videos alone able to land their dream jobs. So definitely, I would say, if you're looking for some interview advice or resume advice, you can definitely check out Linda Raynier on YouTube or lindaraynier.com.
And Linda, you're being really humble right now because you have a massive following of people who love listening to your advice. So kudos to you, definitely on that. And we'll make sure that we add your information in our details section too when this is published. So I'm going to do the same thing with you that I like to do with all of our other guests, and we do a flash questions, right? So I'm going to ask you 3 different questions and tell me the first thing that comes to mind for you, okay? Or at least finish the sentence, okay? Okay, first one. It's never too late to...
I'll just say it, do what you love.
Okay. I get inspired by...
seeing others who are following their dreams.
I can tell that too. And the last one, career success means...
creating a career on your own terms.
Oh, goosebumps. A great way to end the show. So Linda, thank you so much for being a part of the show, and we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Be sure to tune in next week because we have so much more in store for you. Until next time, keep going, keep growing, and keep glowing.